Start the recording. Share screen. Well, first of all, I'm going to say hello to everybody. I'm Marcia James, EFMP here at Ramstein Air Base. There are two of us here, two family support coordinators. There's myself, and there's also Miss Lily Tarver. And we're very happy to have our early childhood intervention folks back in the States. Sadly, our EDIS folks here were not able to assist us, and they are down several staff members. So I'm going to talk about EDIS and what's the difference between EDIS here in Germany, and then Amy and Kathryn will talk about it from the state side. So let me see if I can pull up the slides. Okay, so can everybody see the slides now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, good. All right. So, let's see. Gotta do one more thing here. Okay, Amy, I'm going to make you host. And now I'm going to share the screen.
Amy, you're muted.
And I'm also going to go, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about EDIS. So it'll be EDIS 101. I also put their information in the chat. And I'm also going to be sending you their brochure. So you'll have all their information in case you need to get a hold of EDIS over here at Ramstein. Let me make this into a PowerPoint. Okay. So EDIS is Education and Developmental Intervention Services over here at Ramstein. And what is that? That's our early intervention services for children ages birth up to 3 years of age. They also assist with families that have children that are suspected with developmental delays. The reason that there's a difference why it's called EDIS is that it's military families or military connected families that are overseas locations, or children who are going to a actual DODIA school. They offer their services and therapy services in a natural environment. I'm not going to go too much into that because early childhood intervention services through Easter schools in Texas, they do exactly the same thing except for it's stateside. This is the EDIS brochure. There again, I'm not going to go too much into this because Kathryn and Amy will talk about it. It's the same early childhood intervention services except for it's stateside. EDIS is, again, what I said is overseas or in a DODIA school. And you're all going to get this these slides as well, and their brochure. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Amy and Kathryn, and they're from, I'm actually come from Joint Base Lackland, so they've done plenty of workshops for me, so I know that they can offer us a lot of information that we need. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Marcia, I had to switch to an iPad because my computer crashed. So
Okay.
I may still need you to change the slides for me if you don't mind.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Amy Chavez, and I am the Public Outreach Coordinator for Easter Seals Early Childhood Intervention in San Antonio, Texas. And I have here with us today Kathryn Crane, who is one of our registered occupational therapists on staff as well. Marcia is one of my absolute favorite people, and Ramstein is one of my very favorite bases. So I am happy to be with you guys. I know it's the afternoon over there, but it's early morning here in Texas. And we just want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the relationship that the stateside ECI programs have with the EFMP program and with all the military families. I grew up military, so I kind of know what you guys are going through being stationed overseas and whatnot. And then we're just going to go briefly through typical versus atypical development, and then give you guys some ideas of some easy homemade therapy tools that can be used both in the home or the child care setting. Next slide, please. So just like EDIS, early childhood intervention programs are statewide programs that are available all throughout the United States. So early childhood intervention, ECI programs, are part of federal law in the United States. So anywhere that you could PCS stateside is going to have an ECI program. And when you move from overseas to stateside, if you still require those services, if you're transferring for EDIS, or if you're expecting to have a child that will need to go into early intervention, then there will be a stateside ECI program to support you wherever you end up being stationed. Here at Joint Base San Antonio, we work really well with the EFMP programs in our area. So we have 3 bases that make up Joint Base, and then we also have 3 ECI programs because our area is so densely populated. So we work well with the EFMP groups, and we work on kind of making that transition from overseas back to the States and having your child receive the services that they need as seamless as possible. So typically what happens is I'll get an email through EFMP from a family that is PCSing from wherever. I just did a family last week coming from Japan. And we'll begin communicating a lot of times before that family even makes it back here to Texas, right? But they have their orders, they know they're coming, their child is actively enrolled in receiving services through EDIS, and they're touching base with me, the early childhood intervention provider stateside, to see what's going to happen when they come stateside and how that child is going to continue those services. So, so we communicate back and forth via email, and then a lot of times there's a phone call or 2 involved. The plan that you guys have with EDIS gets transferred over to the stateside ECI program, and then we just talk about as that date approaches where you actually are here and available in the States, where we do our evaluations and meet you and the child and work on getting you hooked up with the stateside services. Next slide. One of the huge benefits of ECI, of course, stateside, we have the ECI programs, which are usually state and federally funded, and then we also have private therapy programs, right? And I have, my oldest child went through ECI all the way until he aged out at 3 and then transferred into the public school systems, and he still receives therapy. So we've done both. We've done the ECI part and we've done the private therapy part. But the benefit of ECI is that there's such a narrow scope of ECI. We focus specifically, just like EDIS, on those birth to 3 babies. So our staff has a laser focused scope. They have tons of experience in just working with babies. And that is beneficial to you and your child during this time. The birth to 3 age is when all those neurons are firing, all those connections are being made, and we can see the biggest amount of progress being made. If you have a child in pediatric therapy, typically those therapy groups are seeing children from birth to 18 or birth to 21. And that is a huge range. So if you think about in the school systems, a really great kindergarten teacher Would that same person excel in middle school or high school? Maybe not. Would a high school teacher want to walk into that kindergarten teacher's room and teach those kindergartners? Probably not. They're whole different worlds as these children grow up. So having that laser focus within the therapist, within the ECI program is a huge benefit. We do work collaboratively with the team members, and that would include your team of medical professionals, your EFMP support, any other therapists that you already have on board. And then also we will communicate with whoever's sending your child over, right? So if you are working with EDIS, then we're going to look at their plan. We're going to look at what they're doing, and we're going to implement that stateside as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so basically EDIS and stateside ECI are the same thing. We serve children from birth to 3. We write a plan called an individualized family service plan. We have therapists, we have early intervention specialists, and we tend to work in the natural environment. Okay, so what Kathryn and I want to talk to you about today is just what does typical development versus atypical development look like? How can you kind of spot those red flags if you have any concerns? And what are some things that you can do in the home environment or the childcare environment to promote that developmental growth? Okay, and again, just as Marcia said, you guys are all going to get copies of these slides. So we're not going to read this to you guys. You'll have this as a resource for you. We're just going to kind of pick and choose some important things that we want to focus on, or some very common reasons for referral. And then the other thing that we want to do is we do want to answer your questions. So please don't feel like you have to wait until the end. If you have a question or a concern about a child right now, and we're kind of talking in that age range and it comes up and it would be relevant, please ask the question now. If we want this to be as beneficial for you guys as possible. And so if there's dialogue, that will make it more so. And Kathryn, feel free to jump in whenever. So how we test in Texas is we use a tool called the Battelle Developmental Inventory, the 2nd edition. And that's what all of our state qualification guidelines are based off of for the ECI program. Every state is different. So even though ECI programs are under this federal umbrella legislation, the states are kind of given onus to manage their ECI programs. And with that, the states choose their testing protocols and their eligibility protocols. So from state to state, that could look a little bit differently. Again, here in Texas, we use the Battelle, and it is kind of split up into these domains. So we look at every child comprehensively, and this is kind of what we're looking at. But this also gives parents and caregivers a really good idea of all the areas of development and what you should be looking for in the next range. You just sometimes don't know what you don't know. And first-time parents, they just don't know what to expect. When is my baby supposed to be doing this? When should I start introducing some of these activities? So having guidelines like this on what's expected kind of helps, guide those activities, those playtime activities, tummy time activities, things like that. So for babies from birth to 6 months, of course, if they have a medical diagnosis, typically those get referred over to us. But what about the babies that don't have a medical diagnosis and the ones that we're just watching for development? During the birth to 6 months, there's a few things that we're going to be looking for. And again, Kathryn, feel free to jump in. But the major things that we want to see is we want to see that the baby is starting to track objects. So following toys with their eyes, that they're starting to look for things and reach for things like faces in their favorite toys, that they are putting their hands to their mouth a lot, that they're wiggling and kicking, and that they're doing everything on both sides. So we want them moving right arm and left arm the same. We want them moving left arm and left leg the same. Okay, tummy time is important. We do want them to be making noise. They're obviously not going to be talking yet, but we want to hear different vocalizations. We want to hear a different sound when they're happy than when they're mad, you know, or when they need something like, oh, that's their hungry cry. We want to hear those things starting to emerge, okay? We want them to kind of start to quiet if they're picked up. So if they're in distress and they're crying, but somebody comes and scoops them up and is like, it's gonna be okay, and patting them, we want them to start calming, okay? And being able to tell, hey, I'm getting soothed, I'm about to get what I need, okay? We're looking for the suck and the swallow, making sure that that's going well, feeding is going well, they're growing. And by 6 months that, you know, or by 4 or 5 months, 6 months, when they want to be picked up or they see somebody familiar and they want them to pick up, we're looking for that reach for their caregiver, right? They know that, hey, I'm upset, I'm distressed, but if I reach up here, I'm gonna get picked up and I'm gonna get some comfort, okay? Do you want to add anything, Kathryn?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so this birth to 6 months is a big developmental, you know, you've got a lot of developmental things happening at this time period. So the baby comes out and you're looking at, all, like what Amy is saying, all these different things. Some big things that you'll look for is what she's saying, noticing if they're turning their head side to side. Are they moving their bodies? Are they starting to lift their head? I mean, tummy time should start immediately as they come out. And that can just look like putting the baby on your chest, having them lay down on you, but it's also important to get the baby on the floor. A lot of times we will notice what we call gross motor, which are those big movements. You may notice, oh, my baby's maybe not kicking or turning their head or moving their arms, and then that would be a big reason to contact your program. But there's also those other things that Amy also said, the cooing or recognizing an adult face, someone familiar. At the beginning, it's parents. You know, they really are familiar with who you are and the voices of them. But any of these things, it's important to look at and see that if there's something that you're like, and even in just that instinct, oh, something may be a little off, go ahead and give the program a call so we can come out and evaluate.
Okay, next slide, please. Speech and language is typically the #1 reason that children get referred. So we like to kind of focus on what the speech and language milestone should look like after each developmental stage. And we've already gone through this. Just make sure that they are saying something, right? You don't want your baby screaming their head off all the time, but you do not want a quiet baby either. You want them to be laughing and gurgling and cooing and making different sounds. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, 6 to 9 months, they're starting to be able to do a little bit more. That head control is coming in. And this is when you want to do those repeating games, right? Those imitation games. Peekaboo, where's that baby? Those kinds of things, okay? That's when you want to see these coming into play. You want to see them start moving toys, transferring from one side to another. They are going to put things in their mouth, so you need to be cognizant of that. If it fits, if an item fits inside a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll, then it could fit inside a baby's throat, right? So you want to make sure that you are baby proofing at this point, because they will pick up things and put them in their mouth. You want to, they're going to start grabbing things, right? This is typically when those, when the pediatrician will tell you to start introducing some of those solids and some of those finger foods. So you see babies start to try to pick up things like Cheerios or the little puffs or things like that. They should be rolling from back to stomach, and they should be sitting in a triangle sit. So you see babies when they're sitting and they have their hands in front of them, right? And they're kind of leaning on their hands for support, but they should be doing that during this time. They should also eventually, during 6 to 9 months, be able to sit on their own. They should respond to their name. They should recognize mom and dad or their main caregivers. They should wave bye-bye. And this is when you should hear those complex babbling sounds. You're probably not going to be hearing words yet, but you should be hearing different sounds strung together, like in their own little baby talk, okay? this is kind of when that separation anxiety can start, and they will also show negation. They will start to push things away that they don't want. So if you try to give them a bottle and they don't want the bottle, they're mad, they want something else, they're going to push it away. If you try to give them a toy they don't want, they're going to push it away. Okay. And they should be able to hold a bottle at this point, or a cup, or whatever it is that they're drinking out of. Kathryn?
No, that was great. Exactly what you're saying is it builds on those first 6 months. So now, as we are, like she said, the baby's starting to sit up, and they're starting to use their hands more. They're becoming more interactive now, especially with that social emotional part. We want to see them hold their bottles. We want to see them start to pick up pieces of food and do those different things, and wanting to play different games with you, such as that imitation play Amy was alluding to.
And I think something that Kathryn mentioned, even as early on as the birth to 6 months slide, is that if you ever have a concern, then it's okay to call your local program, whether it be stateside or EDIS, and ask for an evaluation. Nobody's ever going to come out and say, we can't believe that you wanted to get your kiddo evaluated. If it's enough for you to be concerned about it, if it's keeping you up, if it is something that is weighing on you, then get them evaluated. You know, if they don't qualify, if they don't need services, you've had somebody, a therapist who's had eyes on your baby, who will tell you, hey, you're doing great. Like, this is what you should be looking for in the next upcoming months. And if that doesn't happen, or if you're still concerned, give us a call again. That's pretty much how ECI and EDIS works. Nobody's ever gonna chastise you or shame you for wanting to have your baby evaluated. So if you are concerned, early is always best. Remember, this is when there is huge growth, and if there is a deficit of any kind with the baby, this is when you have the biggest and best opportunity to promote positive change and positive outcomes. Okay.
Absolutely. The research suggests that the earlier you can provide intervention, the better the outcomes down the road. And there's even more research coming out for even the infant, right at birth stages. So definitely want to reach out to your local program. One thing didn't mention at the beginning that, we, like Amy said, is that typically we see our medical babies come through. So if a baby has a diagnosis at birth or something happened, the doctor's like, go to your intervention specialist and let's see if they can get services. Another thing is there are factors for at risk for developmental delays. So a baby born prematurely, that's an at risk for developmental delay. If you had complications during pregnancy or delivery, there may be an at risk. So, reach out if you're concerned. And like Amy said, have someone come out and do the evaluation. The thing they can tell you is everything is great. If anything shows up, again, contact us. And there is no, like Amy saying, no judgment and nothing. We can come out in 6 months if you feel that there's something going on, or in 3 months, and so definitely I would say reach out if you, like Amy said, you have any concerns whatsoever.
I told you guys that my first one, he had a stroke in utero, so he had a lot of complications. He has a lot of medical diagnoses, and he's been in ECI and then therapy. He's 12 and a half now, still has therapy. My second one, when he was born, I literally had him evaluated probably 4 times between the time that he was 0 and 18 months. And I work there, right? So, and even my pediatrician was like, Amy, there is nothing wrong. Like, this kid is neurotypical. And I was like, yeah, but he should be blah, blah, blah. And she's like, whatever, we can refer. And I said, I can't be the lady that's promoting ECI and not refer my kid when I have a concern. So he literally probably was referred and evaluated like 4 times. He was a late walker. He didn't walk until almost 17 months and I don't know, 2 weeks or something. And the range of normal is 9 months to 18 months for walking. And he was wearing me out. He was just lazy. He didn't want to walk. There was no reason why he wasn't walking earlier. He was doing all the things up to walking. He just wouldn't take those first few steps. And then finally he walked, and then 3 days later he started running. So there was that. But literally he was referred and evaluated a whole bunch of times just because that was something that was weighing on my mind. So it's totally fine if you feel the need to have your child evaluated. Next slide, please. So speech and language, by 8 months, children should be able to respond to their name, know who, like look at the mirror and acknowledge like that's them, right? That's me. You should hear different sounds. Again, you're not going to hear words probably yet, but you're going to hear sounds. So there should be like B sounds, D sounds, K sounds, ba, da, ka, when you're hearing those strings of babbling. And the sounds that are made at the front of the mouth are usually the ones that are done first. So that's where you get your ba, your da, your pa. Those ones that come up here are the ones that come first. And they will try to imitate sounds. So like if you're playing peekaboo with them, they may not say peekaboo back to you, but they're gonna try to imitate what you're doing. So if you're going peekaboo, then they might go ee-ah-oo. They're gonna like try to imitate what you're doing. And they're gonna try to imitate the inflection and sometimes even the tone, okay? So that's what you're looking for with speech at this age. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're getting more into the area where they're actually really starting to do more, right? This whole 9 to 12 months, you're gonna see things like crawling emerging. You're gonna see things like pre-walking, probably walking for most kiddos. And like I mentioned with mine, there is a range of normal, okay, for every milestone. Some of them are smaller. Walking is like a huge range. It's literally within the range from 9 months to 18 months, with the median norm being 12 to 13 months, about that year mark when kids start walking. I wouldn't wait until 18 months to refer my kiddo if they weren't walking. I would have those concerns earlier, right? You want to see them doing those precursor things to the milestone. So that makes a difference too. If they're not crawling yet, are they getting up on all fours? Are they starting to rock back and forth? Are they kind of looking like that crawling is coming? It's just not quite there yet. Same with walking, right? Are they pulling to stand? Are they cruising on furniture? Are they letting go and standing by themselves? Okay. If they're doing all of those things, then it's very, very likely that walking is going to follow soon. If they're not doing any of those things, then that referral needs to come sooner rather than later so we can figure out how to help them get there, okay? So from 9 to 12 months, they should begin to understand the word no. That doesn't mean that they're going to obey the word no, okay? It just means that they should start to understand, right? You're gonna say no and they're gonna look at you like, I know you're saying no, they still may do it, but you're kind of gonna see that light bulb like, oh, she's telling me no, okay? They should be able to find hidden objects. So if you were to take their toy and cover it with a blanket, you're gonna see at this age that they're gonna start trying to like look under the blanket or find their toy that you just hid under the blanket, okay? They're gonna start putting things in and out. They're gonna start giving each other, like giving things back and forth. If you say, give me the ball, give me the book, they're gonna start following those things, okay? Pincer grasp, the finger and thumb should come into play during these months, and they should also be able to point, isolate and point with their index finger. And we're gonna talk in a little bit about some different items that can help encourage all of these things. We talked about crawling. They should be sitting well. They should be able to move in and out of sitting position easily. So you're kind of gonna, when babies first start to sit, they're gonna sit and then sometimes they're just gonna kind of like get tired and they kind of like plop over. That should kind of start going away during this time. At this point, they should be able to get in and out of sitting pretty easily and not really be fatiguing and falling when they're sitting down, okay? Cruising, they should be walking around that furniture. They should have a couple of words by 12 months, okay? A lot of times those first words are mama and daddy or something to signify their caregivers. They should imitate speech sounds, and you should see a lot going on with the mouth. You know, they're gonna try to blow kisses back. They're gonna lip smack. If you sneeze, they might go, achoo, and copy you, okay? You should start seeing a lot of things going on with the mouth, okay? And other words that they typically say first are hi and bye, and those should start coming out. those games that they've been imitating, the peekaboos, the patty cakes, they should start to interact with those. And separation anxiety is like in full swing at this age. So when mom or dad or their main caregivers leave, they know about it and they will cry. Okay. They should pick up a spoon by the handle. They won't be holding it how we hold a spoon, but they should be holding a spoon. They should cooperate in dressing and start drinking from a sippy or a straw cup at this point. Kathryn?
No, you hit everything for this one.
Okay. 10 months, they should be babbling to sound like real speech. So you're going to start to hear inflection and tone changes. You're going to start to hear pauses like they're having a real conversation. And they should say mama or dada or something. And it doesn't have to be those words. So I want to say something about speech here real quick. It doesn't have to be these exact words. It can be whatever, you know, you call. If they call you boo-boo, it can be boo-boo. It just needs to be consistent and spontaneous, right? It's not just that they're imitating or mimicking what you're saying. Like if you're a boo-boo and they go up to you and they're all boo-boo, boo-boo, and they know who you are, or they're talking to their bear or their dog or whoever it is, but they know that whatever they're calling you signifies that person and they can use it spontaneously and consistently, then that is a word. Anything that they use spontaneously and consistently is a word. It's not just imitation, but they use it on their own. So that's important. If the child is learning 2 or more languages, and I know that this happens a lot in military families, then when we're talking about these milestones, they just need to be hitting the milestones across the languages, okay? So if we're saying they need to have 2 or 3 words, and they're learning Spanish and English, or they're learning German and English, then that doesn't mean that they need 2 words in English and 2 words in German. That means that they need to be using 2 or 3 words. And they may have part of it in German, part of it in English, all in one language, or all in the other. So those milestones still need to be met, right? Because that's the foundation of language. But when they're learning more than one language, we're not expecting double. We're just expecting that milestone across the 2 languages. So same, when we say that they should be combining words, then that just means they need to be combining words. And they may say one word in German and combine it with a word in English. And that's okay. Because that foundational language building block is there. They understand that to get a bigger idea across, to get their needs met, they're going to start putting these 2 words together. And eventually, they'll separate out the languages. But at this point, we just need to see that that concept is understood, you know, that if I say more whatever, and it comes together, it more can be in English and whatever I'm requesting can be in German. That's fine. But I know that if I'm putting them together, I'm asking for more of that idea. Does that make sense to everybody? By 12 months, we should have 2 or 3 words that we're using consistently and spontaneously, and then they should start imitating words that are familiar, okay? Next slide, please. And these are just ideas. I'm not going to go through these right now because I want to be able to get to our little activities, but these are ways that you can stimulate speech at home as well. Next slide, please. And the next one. These are going to give you guys lots of speech ideas. Okay, so 12 to 24 months. So 12 to 24 or 12 to 18 months. Typically here you see either a motor boom or a language boom. Everything doesn't explode at one time. So typically if a child is focusing on language, and you don't really usually get to decide, the kid usually gets to decide what they're focusing on. If they're focusing on language, that motor is going to go to the back burner. Or if they're focusing on motor, then that language is going to go to the back burner. So between 12 and 24 months, you're going to see language and motor explode, but one might happen before the other, and then it's going to kind of switch. So everything is not going to explode at the same time. Your child is probably not going to start running, jumping, and speaking in sentences all at the same time. They're going to do one thing first, and then they're going to do the other. Okay, but we want to start turn taking. We want to start following one-step requests. We want to be able to stack up at least 2 blocks. We want to be able to start putting 2 things in one hand, like picking up a small ball and then picking up something else and holding it in the hand, scribbling with a crayon. So they have 12 to 18 months here, standing without support, walking, and running. Those things should all kind of come pretty closely in this age, okay? They're going to talk in single words. They're going to be able to name 5 to 7 objects upon request. They're going to be very, very lovey at this time. They're going to hug toys and people. They're going to laugh at things that are out of the norm. Like if you put a stapler on your head instead of a hat, that's going to be super hilarious, and they are going to laugh at it. This is kind of when they start getting their independence, and they're going to insist on doing things by themselves. It is going to take a long time. Plan for it, because it is important to let them do things on their own. And they're going to get frustrated if they can't. And they should be cooperating, but not able to do completely or correctly on their own hair brushing and toothbrushing. Kathryn?
So what I was going to say here is everything that we were just doing in the 9 to 12 month range is now we're building on. So in 9 to 12 months when we were working on pointing, now the child's going to be using that pointing to make a request. They may juice, or they may want dog or toy, you know, so they're starting to now use those skills and they're putting them all together. And like Amy said, they're starting to, that concept of finding that hidden object. Now they're going, oh, okay, now I can do this and I'm going to use it for that. So they're building on all those things that were happening at the 9 to 12 month mark. If you have a child who you notice is saying, you know, things like, instead of pointing or making a request, and Amy has different things in here about how to facilitate that. You can offer them 2 choices. Oh, did you want, you know, your juice, or did you want the snack? And letting them kind of choose between those 2 things to help facilitate that language. But again, that's also where your ECI team will come in and help you if you get your child evaluated. If you notice that those things aren't happening, they will work with you to try and give you those strategies and tools to help facilitate everything.
Okay, next slide. And then this is going to go into speech. So we're going to go through all of these because we're going to run out of time. So just go to the next chart. But what I do want to say about speech and language during this time is that you need to walk around looking like a crazy person. The best way that you can help your child during this time is to narrate life. And I mean, talk about everything. Walk through the grocery store and you talk about everything. Oh, look, there's cereal. We're going to buy cereal. Let's get a cereal. It is in a box. The box is square. Look, there is blue on this box. And you're just like sounding like you're completely out of your mind. But you're talking about everything, because that's how that child is going to build vocabulary. So you are just literally going through your day and narrating everything. And then your child is going to pick up on that. And they're going to start walking around and going, and pointing to things that they don't know, and you're going to name them. And that's how they build their vocabulary, okay? So 18 to 24 months, we're starting to be able to put away things. I mean, you know, we're not going to be winning any awards for cleaning here, but you can have bins and your kid can put items in a bin, okay? They're going to be interested in things that are manipulative and constructive, and they're going to enjoy rhymes and singing. The tower now should increase to where they can stack 4 blocks. They should be able to turn pages of a book, snip paper. I think Play-Doh is more effective at this age because it's more drastic, right? So if you roll Play-Doh into a snake and have kids save scissors and hold up the snake and let them cut it, that Play-Doh falls with a boom, okay? And that's more effective than just putting a little tear in, because you all know how kid scissors are, they don't cut very well. So putting a little tear in a piece of paper isn't as dramatic as cutting Play-Doh, where it can actually fall and they see that cause and effect. I did that. I cut it with the scissors and it fell down, okay? They should be able, gross motor, they're starting to kick, walk up and down stairs. They should be running better, jump, and their jump might look kind of funky, right? It might be kind of like this little 2-footed thing, but that's okay. They're starting to get like the concept of it, okay? They should be using at least 10 words, and this is on the low side, okay? If they're not using 10 words, I would definitely refer. they should start taking turns in a conversation, and they're going to refer to them by their name, right? They're going to talk in the third person, right? So, and remember, they still want to do everything. So a very common 2-year-old phrase, Amy, do it. Amy, do it. Amy, do it. They're going to want to do everything, right? They're still not going to play together, like with another child. They're going to do what's called parallel play. So they'll sit next to another child, and they'll both be playing and doing their own thing, but they're just kind of like sitting next to each other doing their own thing. They will show anger and frustration. That anger and frustration will specifically come out if the child doesn't have enough words and they don't have the communication skills to express themselves, okay? They should be able to start taking off some clothes if they are open and easy and they don't have fasteners. They should be able to drink from a straw. And by that 2-year-old mark, they should be able to tell you if they are wet or uncomfortable. And then again, we're going to kind of skip through this. By 18 months, they should be using 20 words. By 24 months, they should be using at least 50 words. We're going to keep going, going, going. These are ideas to encourage speech at home. There's a lot of these in here. So you guys are going to have these, and that's why I just want to get to the fun stuff in a second. One more time. Okay, so 2 to 3 years. So in the world of ECI, these are our big kids, right? These are our old kids. They should start their pretend playing. They should be talking on the phone. They should be having a restaurant. They should be feeding a baby, okay? They should understand the concept of one. And they should recognize themselves in a picture and probably also some other familiar people that they see often. They should be able to scribble in up and down, side to side, but also in a circular motion at this age. They should be able to draw vertical lines or copy them and build with blocks. They should be able to navigate a playground, stand on one foot, and start riding a tricycle. This is where we want to see at 2 years, they should start combining words, okay? So during this time, you should see those 2- and 3-word phrases coming together. Again, if they're using multiple languages, expect that those languages get mixed up in this combination. The important thing is just that they're starting to build on that word combination, okay? They are understood 75% of the time at this age by people who are close to them, and 50% of the time by people like anybody, okay? I should be able to go up to a child of this age and understand about 50% of what they're saying, but as the main caregiver, you should understand them about 75% of the time. They start to understand prepositions, so those are those directional words, in, on, under, beside. They can start helping you with things around the house. They can match socks, they can fold washcloths, they can put things in the dishwasher, they can put their dishes in the sink, they can put trash in the trash bin. They can start to do those kinds of things. They should be playing well with other children. They should be able to wash and dry their hands and dress themselves with help. And again, they're still going to need help with some of these self-help kind of tasks, but they should be like coming into play. Okay, Kathryn?
No, that was great. And even like cleaning up a spill, they may spill something and they may go, grab a washcloth and start cleaning that up. But definitely the language in this area is where we see a huge boom, like Amy said. And so this is often where we will get our referral for kiddos where they're not saying the words or they're hard to understand, but also pay attention to those fine motor skills and that cognition piece and social emotional as well. If you see any flags there too, make sure you refer.
Okay, next slide. Okay, we're going to skip all through this because you guys are going to have all these ideas of how to encourage speech and language. And then we are going to go to
Red flags will be next.
Yeah, then we're going to skip through the red flags too because we pretty much have talked about those as we've been going through, but we wanted to have those in writing so that you guys can look back on the red flags. So this is going to talk about like specific letters that you're looking for and all kinds of stuff, but it's a lot of really good speech stuff for you guys to have. Okay, we talked about this. If you feel like something isn't right, your child is running your whole entire family, then make a referral. And these are things that we've talked about as we've gone through all the different stages. These are red flags at any point in time. And the one caveat I want to say about the red flags is every single thing that is a red flag is perfectly normal. for a certain age and at a certain time, right? Putting everything in your mouth is normal at a certain age, okay? But if they're 2 and they're still picking up everything off the floor and putting something in their mouth, then there's probably something sensory going on. There's probably a reason that that child still feels the need to get that input. So it's completely normal when they're 6 to 9 months. It is maybe a cause for concern when they're 2 years old. So just take everything with a grain of salt and use your experience, right? And your gut feeling and see how you feel. And if you need to make a referral, then make a referral. Okay, so here's our fun part. These are graded therapy activities that you can make out of common household items. And Kathryn is like the queen of this. So let's talk a little bit about container play. And I'm gonna let Kathryn talk about this because this is actually a child that Kathryn sees.
Absolutely. So I love, this is what I love about our program and what we do. So we do try to use what you have around the house and use your everyday items. Why not? You know, you always hear the story and laughing of you buy this really great toy for the kid at Christmas and they want to play with the box. Great, that's what we're going to use. So the picture on the left of your screen, you'll see this little boy and he's putting the balls into the box. We're working on purposeful release. We're working on that, you know, letting that go. He's going to match the colors, you know, so when we say graded activities, what we mean is we're going to start with one thing, but then we can challenge it. We can make it more difficult as we go on. So for the beginning, we're maybe just letting go of that toy, but then we're starting to do a sequence or we're starting to match the colors. Same with what's on the right. Now you're adding a visual processing component to it. So not only is it fine motor, picking up those sticks and putting it in that lid, but now you've got to visually look and can I judge where I'm putting that? You know, if you notice that your kid is overshooting or, you know, and what I mean by that is here's the container and the kid's putting it here, well, then maybe we need to be looking at vision. Like maybe we should get vision checked and talk to somebody about that. But you can use an oatmeal container, you can use an old formula container, anything, and cut the little slits. In this picture, the mom colored it, you know, colored the sticks and then colored the lid so the child would have to match them. So we can use those and facilitate that grasping, that releasing, that cognition piece, all of those. You can make language, add language to it by talking about what you're doing. Look at the ball, the round ball goes here. And then if you want to go down to the next slide, we're just talking about, it says container play for stage 1. Oh, next slide, sorry. I was like, oh, maybe. Okay, so what we're talking about is introducing container play at that 4 to 6 months when you're working on that sitting. And reason being is we want that release. We want a child to start understanding that not only am I holding on to something, but now I have control over it. I can let it go. This also works well for, can I have it down the road, my turn? Again, adding that language piece to it. Things that you can practice that you saw, popsicle sticks. Actually, I'm going to show you, I took a container and I mean, just your average milk container, and I cut a little hole in the back. And so we're working on putting that like a pom-pom, just any kind of little thing, or a cotton ball. We're going to put that in. Whoa, it came out to this side. Oh my gosh, wow, that's really neat. The child picks it out and we're playing games. So we're starting to play those kind of games. If this is hard, obviously for this age, I'm not saying that, but maybe open the lid and do it inside for 4 to 6 months. And then as the child's developing that pincer grasp between 9 and 12 months, you're working on doing it here. You can leave that there. We can practice poking, all kinds of different things. Let's see, next one. Okay, so next slide, I kind of already mentioned the next slide, but putting the lid on the container and adding one slot, or doing like I did with the milk carton, poking and pushing items. That's going to be where we can go with the next one. And then stage 4. So next slide. Now we're getting a little bit older and we're taking that same concept, but we're adding now a shape. So we're going to match, think shape sorters, but you can do this at home. Again, you don't have to go buy one. When you have any of these items around the house, you can just do it with that. You can take a block and then you can cut that. You can take the pom-pom, make a circle. So I have like these little blocks that you can, you know, just little 1-inch cube type blocks. And so you can make a shape there and you're practicing putting those things in. Anything, you know, tracing that and having them, we're talking about that's an elephant, this is the bear, this is what sounds do they make. So again, we can pair language with any of these different activities that we're doing. I do want to say that if we're working on container play, working on fine motor skills, another one that I like to do is take an empty egg carton or take a ice cube tray that you have around the house, put pom-poms, cotton balls, puffs, their little, you know, snacks in there. And this forces their little fingers to have to use that pincer grasp because they can't stick their whole hand in. So if you notice that your child likes to what we call rake, where they go like this to pick it up, and you're like, gosh, they're not using their fingers, like I want them to do some of these kind of play. This is great, and this is great at any age. You can put little food choices, some strawberries or blueberries, and let them pick those snacks out to practice while they're having their snack. So those are the kinds of things you can help facilitate as well. Okay, next one. We're going to talk about lids. I have a whole thing of lids that I am saving for my niece right now because I use them for everything. So as you can see in these pictures, this is a great thing to do for so many kids. Look at the little one on the right. What they did on this one is they put these, so you can just take these off with the diaper wipes, okay? Take them off the diaper wipes. You can hot glue them down onto a board. You can put the picture underneath. And then now the baby at that 9 to 12 months is starting to flip that lid up. So she's working on that finger isolation, lifting. You're now seeing the family faces in there and talking about who those people are. She's starting to recognize, oh, that's mom, and we can point and add language there. On the left side of your screen, we use those to even do like a matching game for some of the older kids. Well, where, you know, and you can make them for holidays. This one is the ghost. You could do a Christmas theme. You could do a summer theme. Where's the sun? Okay, now do we remember where the other sun was? And again, we're working on fine motor. We're working on pointing, cognition, social emotional, you know, where you're talking, you're having back and forth play with your little one in that way. So we can go to the next slide. And I kind of already talked about these, but attaching it to cardboard, and I think, yeah, there's another picture here soon about what we do with the box, but like you can attach it, work on animals, emotions, colors, any of those different things. Next slide for stage 2. Stage 2, we're looking, oh, sorry, next slide. We are using that same idea, but maybe harder concepts. So patterns, we're matching, they're having to problem solve. So we're making them think and remember, okay, we saw it under this one. Now let's close that lid. And where did that other sun go? Okay, stage 3. Next slide. So this one is one that I've done. This is a box from a little girl that I made. And I just took an Amazon box that I got from a package. I cut the circles, I traced it, just put it on there, traced it, cut the circles, and we're working on dropping those pom-poms and cubes inside. But then we're also, mom added the popsicle sticks so we could practice pulling, pushing. You could tie ribbons on the side and put a knot on the inside for even a little one, and they have to practice pulling, and all that's going to work on those fine motor skills, that thinking process, like, whoa, I pulled that and that came out, and then you show them how you pull it back in. All of those different things are things that you can try. And so the possibilities are endless with a box or a container or anything like that. Okay, next slide. I love water painting and sticky walls. These are really fun activities, especially in the summer. On the left, you'll see a kiddo painting. If you have a child that struggles with scribbling and coloring, you can take it and put it vertical. So when we put things at an angle, then it helps them to use their arm and their shoulder, and they're going to be working on refining that skill. So paint with water on your fence. So then it disappears, the water evaporates, and you didn't mess up your fence. So getting them at that angle, especially like if your child is struggling with maybe balance for standing, you're adding this now piece and they're making it fun, and you're having them, oh, okay, I'm standing, I'm not even thinking about it because I'm having a great time doing this. You can have them scribble with chalk on the fence and then take the paintbrush and brush it off. The picture on the right, I always call it contact paper. You can usually find it at the store, but it's sticky, and so you can also practice sticking things up. I like to also use, if we're going to use our hands, I will take, like this one, I have a muffin tin, and peeling tape is a great activity for kids. So having them practice like peeling it and finding the block that's underneath or something that's underneath, you can have them match again, like that could be for the younger kid, but then, okay, this one's yellow, this one's red, where's the other red one? Cover it back up and try and find the matching piece. So again, you're working on the cognition, the fine motor, you know, trying to remember where everything is, but even things up at that surface. So take tape, put it on the wall, have them practice peeling that tape off. You can make a racetrack with the with the tape on the wall, and they're going to take their car and they're going to move it around the wall, and they're getting all of this motion and all these different things in. So that's a good one for them. And next slide. So this is just telling you exactly what I just said. We're working on the core strength, the fine motor, building this stability at the shoulder if you have a child that's having a tough time with that. Next slide. And then this is just telling you exactly like what you can do. On this picture, you can see how they started to have the older child spell the word cat. And that's the other thing in therapy. If I'm working with a young one in this birth to 3 range and they have an older sibling, it's like, hey, I want to join in. Great. Have them do an activity maybe for them. What are they working on? What are their skills? And you can say, well, help me with this. You know, show your sibling how to do that. And then now they've got a person modeling it for them too. And you're encouraging the two to work together. So this one, painting on the fence, is a lot of fun. And then next slide, we'll just talk about that sticky wall again and how this is really good. You can do shapes, you can do all kinds of things. Talks about the sticky wall again, making different pictures. And really the possibilities are just endless with things. What you can find around the house, you know, just like a paper towel roll or a toilet paper roll are amazing, because you can even take that on the wall, have them practice putting pom-poms down in there. You know, Pinterest is another place that will show you all kinds of things. If you just search activities with a box or something like that, they will help. You can find things. But then also, if you're working with your therapist, ask them, what can I use with the things I have around the house? We don't want to go spend a ton of money on toys right now because we're going to be moving, or, you know, we just don't have a lot of space, or whatever it may be. Use what you have. Get that empty box, get that empty container, all of those different things, and use them in your play, because you do not have to have that toy, that special toy from the store, to facilitate development.
Does anybody have any questions for us? I know we're like right at the time. Does anybody have questions that they'd want to ask?
Well, if there is any, you can always email them to me. I'm going to also, if you didn't get the slides, I did send them out to everybody who signed up and gave me your email. If you did not, if you didn't get to download them in the chat, let me know as well too. And if there are no questions, anybody, last chance, any questions for Amy or Kathryn? Well, great training. I love the ideas. I know that we all need those kind of things. Just you can even start thinking about other stuff that you have around that you can make things out of. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening. And again, if there's something that comes up that you think about later, just give me an email, and Amy's and Kathryn, I know, will be able to answer any questions even after. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You.
And have a good
day.
rest of the day for Texas.
We're in Italy, but thank you. Take care.
Okay, well, just let us know, Marcia, if you need anything else.
Okay.
And sorry that my computer was having a fit this morning.
Well, it started right on time. It was.
Well, I had to get on an iPad. My computer is still being ridiculous. And Kathryn's like, Amy, I need you to be able to do this presentation.
Yeah, like, Amy, I need you on here because I only know about the others.